All right, so most of the time when they ask you to use the unit circle, they're going to be using radians most of the time. Sometimes they're going to throw degrees in there. Like I showed you before, there's nothing stopping you really from just typing that into your calculator in the correct mode, okay? But it's not going to give you the answer in the form that they want it. They're going to want it in the square root form. They don't want it, I don't want it in the decimal form. So you've got to use your unit circle. So when they ask you to evaluate the sine of 3 pi over 4, what you need to do is you need to go to your unit circle. You need to find the angle 3 pi over 4, and the sine is which coordinate, the x or the y? The y. Sine is the y. So the answer to this is the square root of 2 over 2. Okay, the answer is the square root of 2 over 2. Now, if you're in doubt, you can always type that into your calculator. The angle is in radians, so you need to be in radian mode. And you just type in the sine of 3 pi over 4, and it will give you 0.707, and you type in the square root of 2 divided by 2, and you see that those are the same value, okay? But if you use the unit circle, you don't have to spend all the time. All right, so cosine of pi over 3. We find the angle pi over 3 on our unit circle. Cosine is the x-coordinate. So the answer is 1/2. So we would get lucky on that one when we typed it into the calculator. 1/2 is, it would give you 0.5, so you'd write it as 1/2. Okay, the cosine of 90 degrees. Okay, find 90 degrees. It's the x-coordinate, so that answer is 0. All right, D, the sine of 540 degrees. Well, we don't have 540 degrees on our unit circle. We only go to 360. Angles can be greater than 360. That just means you've gone around more than once. So to simplify this, we've already gone around once. So let's do 540 minus 360. Okay, because that's going around one time. So really, this is the same thing as 180 degrees. Okay, 540 is just going all the way around 360 and going 180 more degrees. So the sine of 180 is 0. Okay, the sine of 180 is 0. All right, the sine of 7 pi over 6. What's that answer? Negative 1/2. Okay, negative 1/2. Find 7 pi over 6 on your unit circle and you pick the y coordinate. Okay, cosine of 7 pi over 4. What is it? Square root of 2 over 2. How about the sine of 215 degrees? That negative square root 2 over 2, 215 should be in the middle of the, oh, sorry, no. I put that one on here for a reason. 215 is not on the unit circle, okay? So if it's not on the unit circle, you have no choice but to just put it in your calculator, okay? If it's not on the unit circle, then you just have to type in your calculator. Make sure you're in degree mode. That's what radian and degree mode matters, okay? It doesn't matter when you're converting degrees to radians and vice versa. But what it's doing is it's telling your calculator that angle I just plugged into the trig function, that's an angle in degrees. Because 215 degrees is very different from 215 radians. Okay, so make sure you're in the right mode. So you just have to type this one in and approximate it, negative 0.574. I like to go to 3 places after the decimal. Okay, so if the angle is not on the unit circle, that is the only time you're allowed to put a decimal answer. Okay, is if it's not on the unit circle, that's the only time you can put a decimal answer. All right. Okay, here's another way that we can use this. If we are given the point on the unit circle and we're asked for the angle in radians, okay, so instead of just searching all over the unit circle, let's use a little bit of common sense for a second. We have a positive x and a negative y. Which quadrant are we looking for? Positive x, negative y, that's the fourth quadrant. Okay, that's the fourth quadrant. So go to the fourth quadrant on your unit circle, and which angle has that coordinate? Seven pi over 4 has that coordinate. I want it in radians. Okay, in degrees that would be 315 degrees, but we want it in radians. Okay, so b, square root 3 over 2, 1/2, positive x, positive y means quadrant 1. And which angle is that? Pi over 6. Pi over 6 has square root 3 over 2 for the x coordinate and 1/2 for the y coordinate. Okay, let's look at this. Let's identify all angles. Let's use radians and degrees, just so that we continue to become familiar with the equivalency there, where the cosine is equal to 1/2. There's gonna be more than one place. Okay, so the cosine, first thought we should be thinking is x coordinate. Okay, cosine x coordinate. So I'm looking for places where my x coordinate is 1/2. So theta, the angle is, what angles give me an x coordinate of 1/2? Start in the first quadrant. 60, okay, so we've got pi over 3 and 60 degrees. Okay, where else do we have an x coordinate of positive 1/2? 300. And what is that in radians? 5 pi over 3. Okay, so technically we have 4 answers. We've got 2 angles in radians, 2 angles in degrees. Now 60 and pi over 3 are the same, 300 and 5 pi over 3 are the same, but we need the angles in radians and in degrees. Okay, how about where the sine is equal to negative 1/2? So sine is our y coordinate. So we're looking for where is the y coordinate, negative 1/2. So y's are negative in the third and fourth. Third and fourth quadrant have negative y's. So what are our angles here? 210 and 330. So what would those be in radians? 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. Okay, 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. 210 and 330 degrees. Does that kind of make sense? All right, so we're going to hold